So that's the first step. Second step. There's 7 steps, by the way. Okay, we'll be here till Monday morning. Now, and again, this is getting our bases right, where we're coming from. In our first class, I know there were a few people not here. Nancy, you weren't here, and a few other. But what we covered was the metaphysics of the separation. Okay? So what we're really doing here, when you come to this point of the course, what you're coming down to is what we did in the last class, which is choice. Yeah? So, again, how did we get here? This is very, very important to get your footing on the ground, also how to look at undoing that story. So you have 4 versions of the separation. Everybody know the 4? No. First one is the Garden of Eden story, where basically it was a woman's fault, Diane. I know it was you. And you got Roy to eat the apple. Okay? And we're all familiar with the story, and basically God condemned us to a life of suffering. And only at the last judgment will we set free from the pain and suffering if we decide to be a good person and God lets us off the hook. So this story, you can see there's a lot of sin attached to it, there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of fear.
And separation.
Well, that's what sin is. It's sin of separation. When you read about sin in the course, it's a synonym for separation. So it was the sin of heaven we committed of our wish to be separate.
And duality also.
Well, this is duality. So, that's the first version. And that version had been around since basically the construction of the Bible. And you all know where the Old Testament was written. You all know why it was written and how it was written. No?
Tell us.
It was written in Babylon in 1200 BC. There was Babylonian king was Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, you might remember that from the Matrix. If anybody was it was one of the ships that they were in. But basically, he razed Jerusalem to the ground, and he took 12,000. He took all the citizens and held them in Babylon. Just remember David and the lion and all. Yeah, this was this. So at that time, they were basically they thought they were going to be all killed because they were being thrown to the lions and everything. So 12 of them, the 12 tribes of Israel, got together and they started to write down their history because they all thought their people were going to be extinct. So they wrote down all the old stories of Abraham, Moses, the whole land, God, Genesis, the lot. And it was all written in Babylon. But then Nebuchadnezzar, there was David, something intervened. I don't know the full story of it, I'm not going into it now. But basically they were released and they took the manuscripts back home with them. And that was the foundations for the Old Testament. Okay? So, my point here is this. All right?
In Africa, there is a tribe that has the same creation story about a garden and getting expelled.
Mm-hmm.
And that tribe never had anything to do with the Jewish Old Testament.
So Jesus came along then a couple of thousand years later, and Jesus introduced a new version of the separation. Anybody know that? The prodigal son. And this story, he reinterprets the old story of Babylon. Okay? Where we didn't do anything wrong. That basically the son just basically wanted to have an experience of faraway lands. And his father wished him well and he set him off. And that is a metaphor and a symbol for us as the one son coming to this world. And the son ends up squandering everything. He squanders his wealth. That's a symbol for his spiritual self. Okay? He denies his spiritual self and he goes into material form. Okay? So there's no wealth in material form. Okay? And he lives in a state of fear. And he's living in a state of guilt now because he's squandered his wealth. Not that his father's money. This is only a symbol for his spiritual identity. His bliss, his peace, his joy, his happiness. So Jesus reinterprets that story, and that's version 2. Version 3 then comes into A Course in Miracles. Okay? I.e., Nancy. Sorry. What's the story?
I was writing. What did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, the tiny. Oh, that we wondered what it would be like if we separated from God.
Yeah. And to do that, we had a confrontation with God. We judged God, we separated, and the ego then basically told us we were sinful, guilty, and evil. So you can see version 3, the tiny mad idea, is the same as the first version, isn't it? Remember the version out of Babylon? Yeah? Sin, guilt, and fear. It's the same version as number 1 of the Garden of Eden, isn't it? Form might be a little bit different, but basically this is the same symbol: sin, guilt, and fear, and what? Okay? So if you're doing a holy book, then that is basically, you're going to be attached to that form of the separation. If you're doing the book in psychology, out of those 3, what are you doing? What version would you pick? There's still one more version to go.
The prodigal.
Yeah, of course, from those 3, it would be the prodigal son. Why would you get involved with stories of sin, guilt, and fear when you don't have to? Okay, so the 4th version is this. And it starts before the tiny mad idea. And this version is, you must understand the 2 states of heaven. One state is being, the other state is awareness. In the Course, these 2 states are called the Father and the Son, Creator and created. Doesn't matter the symbols you use here. Okay? But there is a difference. And when I talk to some people on A Course in Miracles and they say heaven is all one, you don't understand oneness. Very clearly, we're told in the Course that the Father and the Son. There's 2 states, and we're told repeatedly that we are not God. And we are not self-created. God is the only one that's self-created. That's the difference. So that's what this story was all about here. We wanted to be self-created. We wanted to be like God. We wanted to create ourselves. I.e., what are we doing? What are we doing with our bodies? We are creating bodies, aren't we? Yeah? So, every time you have a child or your parents or whatever, we're doing like God. This is the ego's version of creation. We create ourselves. Bodies create bodies. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Okay? So, in the Course, okay, and throughout the Course, you're repeatedly told the tiny mad idea never happened. Isn't that true? But some people just won't let it go. And they're still trying to undo that. And Jesus says in the Course very clear, you can't look on sin and forgive it. So if you look on the tiny mad idea and you believe that it really happened and you believe that you have to undo it, then you're in for a long, long road of conflict with yourself. Because here's where you're doing it. Okay? So, what is happening is being is moving into awareness. And for that to happen, there had to be some form of separation in our minds so we could come to know ourselves. Because if Jesus talks about it, if we had woke up in heaven, we would have been very confused that we were God. I.e., that's what the tiny mad idea is really telling us. If you'd have woke up in heaven, this is what would have happened. You must know yourself. You're not God, but there's nothing inside you that's not of God. And that leaves us very confused here. And in this world, you just look around you, you'll see how many people playing God. Every time somebody tells you what to do, they're playing God. Every time somebody gets angry with you for not doing something, what are they doing? They're playing God. So we all have this God consciousness, this God complex that's inside us. Some more than others. Okay? But ultimately, it is only the acceptance of our equality with each other. Jesus calls it in the Course the brotherhood. And he called it the brotherhood 2,000 years ago also. And many other people called it the brotherhood. Einstein called it the brotherhood. Carl Jung called it the brotherhood. The brotherhood. Okay? And in the Course it's called your brother, along with the brotherhood. So when we can accept our equality with each other, okay, that's when you can move up to here. There's other ways to go up there, and we'll show. Okay, so to sum up the fourth version, it's this. There were three objectives for all of this to occur. The first one was we were to experience everything that heaven is not. The second one was when we experience everything that heaven is not and we want nothing else, you move to step 2, which is
Prodigal son.
know yourself. No, we're on about the fourth version. There's 3 parts to the fourth version. So, we're going to experience everything that heaven is not. And when you make your mind up that you want nothing else, then you move to step 2, which is now you must know yourself, which is the separated self here, the world, and the body. Then, once you do that, now you're ready to wake up. That's the fourth version. So, we had to invent a story that we would believe that we were separate. Now, this is the version that I do and have done. Okay, I don't do the sin, guilt, and fear. Okay, this is as close to the prodigal son that you can get. Okay, so you're free to go the sin, guilt, and fear Garden of Eden. You're free to go down the tiny mad idea road, but all you're going to be doing is manifesting and undoing guilt all around you. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life looking and searching for guilt? Anybody here? There's another way to do this. There's another reinterpretation for all of this. You're free to go down, and there's not wrong that road. You know, some people, Regina, you're very attached to your guilt. So this is the path for you. Because what's in the way is the way. Isn't that true?
Because what?
What is in the way is the way. And there's one thing that's sitting in front of you that's blocking your happiness. And it's guilt. So that's what you have to basically now undo. Get that block out of the way. So you can see the 4 versions here, right? If I, or anybody wanted to go down the psychology road, this is the road to go down. What you're doing is you're reinterpreting and you're looking at the whole thing from a completely new perspective. You're looking at this now and saying, right, I made this whole thing up. Why? Because I needed to wake up. And now I can basically take the whole thing apart because it was me who made it in the first place. Jesus tells us that throughout the Course. He says, don't tell me this is difficult. He says, it was you that made it. And that's what we have to learn. We might think the Course is very difficult. That's just because we have had a head in the sand for 20 or 30,000 years. So we're awakening up now. Okay, any questions on that?
What was number step number 3 again? Step 2 was know yourself, step 3 was what?
Step 3 is wake up. Basically now what you're doing is you're set in motion, I'm ready to wake up. Okay? So that was the 3 objectives.
Would you define wake up?
Get into here.
Yeah, but what would you describe? What is
Conscious. That you're fully aware of every thought, you're fully aware of choice, you're fully aware of your bliss, you're fully aware of your spiritual identity, you know you're not a body, you know the body's only a vehicle that you're experiencing in this world. It's basically when the light is switched on.
And do you still suffer?
No.
Do you still have negative thoughts?
Well, you can look at any thought in this world and you can take it seriously or you can laugh at it.
So when you're awake, you don't take it seriously anymore?
What happens here is, right, when you're here, you're in the state of bliss.
Yes.
Okay? Then, here's the world, remember here. So, if you want something in the world, right, you come in, and now you're in the ego thought system, and you'll have these, or you'll be witness to these thoughts. Because you're in the world.
So you still have those
Yeah,
thoughts?
but okay? So what you're doing is, it's like everything else. You'll be here, looking at here. So you're going to have these thoughts. It's all here. They're all circling around. But if you take one of them seriously, you enter here. So
Okay.
you can look at the world from here. Or you can look at the world from here. And if you look at the world from here, all right, then you come down into here, into this low level.
So when you're awake, do you still have those false thoughts?
You're not listening to me. Because when you seek outside yourself,
Yeah.
right, here I'm in my center, here. So I want to do something in the world, now I'm here. Now the thoughts are around. But you don't attach yourself to it. You're fully aware of them. You're not mind wandering. You see, when we're at this level, we're having all these thoughts, and we actually think there are thoughts, and we believe them. And then we think, how can, I be a nice person when I'm having such bad thoughts? All coming from here.
Okay, so when you're awake, the thoughts are still happening, but you
No,
don't believe them?
you see, you're not listening to me. You can stay in your center, and you're in bliss, there are no thoughts. Or when you're seeking outside yourself, you enter into judgment, you're into the ego. Now there's thoughts, but you don't attach yourself to them.
But I want to know if the thoughts continue when you're awake.
No.
No, they don't.
They stop?
They stop.
Right, let's move on, okay?
No.
Peace?
Yeah.
Just peace?
Before you move on,
You
I
just
have
feel-
a question.
Because they're not.
The spiritual path and the holy path, I'm not clear what the difference is between the two.
Well, what is the spiritual, you know a lot of spiritual people, don't you? They're into spiritual symbolism. They're into Reiki, and they're into the yin and the yang and all of that. Well, that person will be going down that, and they'll be using those symbols.
Symbols, okay.
Okay, so the person who's coming from, say, guilt and religion and everything, they'll be going down this path, same path, okay? But now their symbols will be different, because they'll be into guilt, fear, damnation, salvation, all those Christian symbols.
And that's holy.
Yes.
Holy.
So the spiritual symbols and the Christian symbols are the same. And even the psychology symbols are the same. But you see, people might do the course and try to basically write. I know a lot of people who won't do the course because of the Christian symbols.
Oh, I wouldn't for years.
That's what's in the way is the way, because that's the block. It must be done to be reinterpreted. Because you can take any Christian symbol and reinterpret it. What is Christ? Anybody?
Son of God.
Son of God. Okay, what's another term for the Son of God? Being. Isn't it? What's another term for it? Creation. There are many symbols out there. But you see, people just get attached to one symbol and then they won't let it go. And then every other symbol is wrong. And all they're doing now is they're back down into here, writing wrong and good and bad symbols. Every symbol that's out there, the ego can put it in one of these rooms, or you can put it in one of these rooms. Reinterpretation is the name of the game. Okay? If you look at the levels, you dissect the course down into the levels, right? Just take the symbols that I have, the diagrams I have, you can put any symbols in the course into any of them. Jesus gave Helen the words of the course over 7 years. Okay? Jesus, God, introduced me to God 7 years ago in Revelations. And I received all the symbols of the course over 7 years. But I didn't receive, basically, the way I received them was in visions, lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences. Okay? So, what I had to do with those symbols, I had to look at the course, I had the symbols. I had to take all the words that Helen was given and put them in to the symbols. And that's what I've done. Remember what the course says at the beginning. Words are symbols of symbols twice removed from reality. So when you get to the symbol, you're only one step away from reality. And that's what all of these are. They're symbols. And everything in the course is a symbol. And it must be reinterpreted. Okay? How we fix it?
5 to 11. 5 to 11.
All right, I thought it was more. So we'll do one more step, okay? And then we're going to take a little break, and then we'll come back to it, because it's warm today.